up, everybody? It's your favorite questionable Mandalorian's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Star Wars Vintage Collection Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett. This was given to me as a gift from Frank H, who really shouldn't have, but I definitely appreciate it. That being said, it's 1/18 scale, aka 3 3/4, and the reason why I say questionable Mandalorian is because there's a lot of stuff going around about whether or not him and Jango were Mandalorians. I don't feel like we're properly equipped with that information quite yet. Obviously, I'm leaning towards no, but due to the EU/Legends changes, it's kind of impossible to say. But I don't want to hold you up with that. We're here to talk about the figure, and we will. But in order to do so, we got to start with accessories. He comes with this pistol. It's cast in this brown plastic. It's sculpted nicely, and it has the silver paint added. It'll fit in his holster, but be careful. It's a tight squeeze to get it in, and this is a thin piece of like softer plastic here, so it has the capability and probability of kind of warping. As you can see, it's hard to get in and out, so to speak. And he'll hold it just fine with the finger in the trigger guard. He also comes with this kind of standard, most sort of iconic blaster with some really impressive paint on it. This is brown plastic with the black glossy painted on the metal bits, then dry brushed with the silver. Down here, all of the details are painted black and then highlighted with the silver. It's probably done with dry brushing as well, but it's really well executed. You know, there's not silver all over the brown here. Like, it's really quite well done. You can put that over his shoulder, and he'll hold it just fine and support it with the supporting hand. He comes with his jetpack, nice sculpted details as well as paint, red paint and silver paint visible from the back. And then we have some kind of heavy-handed dry brushing, but it doesn't bother me. It's supposed to be weathering, and then some silver and sort of red accents as well as some yellow ones along the way. It plugs in with these two notches into those two, and then the peg onto his back. And he also comes with the helmet. This is locked in place. It is painted silver and a softer plastic. The helmet is painted beautifully. We have the kind of base. We'll take it off. The base is like this grayish, this light gray, which is crazy because it like doesn't really make up any of the kind of real component of the helmet. So that means that the green, the maroon, the darker green, the silver, and the black are all painted on. And as you saw, it fit on his head just fine. And now we'll talk about the figure. We'll start with the face sculpt. It's nice. Jango-esque, but a little, you know, different. We got some battle scars on there and stuff. It has, I think, the photoreal paint. Looks good. Looks real good. It's on a single ball peg, which works just fine. Limited down, limited up, but you get side to side and a little bit of attitude. The helmet and stuff is going to actually add a bit to that because you can adjust the helmet, you know, and sort of fake it to make it look like he's looking up. Yes, the chin is poking out a bit, but it'll still work. For the chest, we have this base white with the green painted on. The weathering is done on top, plus the symbol here, and then whatever that is, like a couple black marks there. Then we have the tassels. They're a separate, are they a separate piece? Or are they cast? No, they're cast, yeah, they're cast on this separate piece that makes up the top collar portion of the armor. And then they're painted the beige and black, and then we have the accents as well as the weathering on there. The collar piece holds down the soft goods, which is well done and sits nicely and has the brown paint on it, which looks sharp. The shoulders are on disc hinges that peg into the chest with a great range on them. And you get all the way around. On this side, we have the Mandalorian painted on, the symbol, and then we have the shoulder pad painted. Then we have a bicep swivel where the elbow plugs in on a single hinge that gets you 90 degrees. You have a wrist swivel. Oh, maybe you don't. Yeah, you do. It's at the gauntlet, which is even better. But you don't get any wrist articulation up, down, or in, out, which is kind of a bummer. The gauntlets are painted with silvers and yellows and blacks, and then the hands have some extra white paint on it. On this side, we had the mustard color shoulder pad as well as some weathering. And then you have the same articulation. You have this extra bit that's sculpted and glued on, and then painted white. Everything else is kind of standard. Single ball peg for the chest, a little limited, but gets you the swivel just fine. A little bit back and a little bit down. A little bit side to side, but nothing crazy. You have this soft floating piece, and you have the brown painted on that, and then you have some weathering done to it that's a little heavy-handed, and then those buckles are painted extremely nicely. And then the holster bit is cast onto the plastic of the thigh. The thighs are on swivels, and the problem with this is it greatly hinders hip articulation. We'll back out a little bit so we're not just focusing on his crotch. This is the main issue with this figure. We'll talk more about it in final thoughts. We have the peg that goes up into the thigh, connected to a hinge that controls the knee and gets you 90 degrees. Then you have the mustard color bits painted on for the knee pads and some silver accents down in the lower legs. The ankles swivel and tilt on a hinge down and a little bit up as well. So that's nice, and there's some nice black paint accents on the ankles themselves. So it's not a terrible figure, and it looks really good standing still, and it's very stable, but you lose articulation and you lose dynamic posing, and we'll talk about that here in the final thoughts. So my negatives mainly come down to the hips and the swivel that they use for the hip articulation. As a result, you only get the legs forward and back, but this figure has a lot of engineering built into it that you could utilize to get him into a dynamic pose. However, due to the fact that his legs will only go forward and back, you're never gonna really get that, because unless he's walking, you're never really gonna want him just moving his legs back and forth, perhaps doing a front ways karate kick. So unfortunately, all the engineering in the lower part of the body ends up being for nothing, because you can't use it to get him in any pose that's kind of worth anything, and that's a real bummer. The good news is, it's pretty much the only bummer about this figure. Far more positives than that one negative. It's just that that one negative is significant. The positives are, everything is sculpted and painted to the nines, as it should be for the price point for this scale figure, but it leaves no stone unturned, and therefore no regrets in terms of its price point. It then comes with 2 weapon accessories that are easily integrated into almost every element or configuration of the figure, whether stored in a holster or on his shoulder or being held in his hands, as well as the backpack, or jetpack I suppose I should say, which is also sculpted beautifully, painted beautifully, and stays in position perfectly. Same for the helmet. They gave you the extra sculpted head underneath, which they didn't need to do, and the soft goods add a nice extra touch, breaking up the monotonous feel of a figure in this scale. So it is a recommend for me. Just be aware of the leg articulation. You're not going to be getting this guy into any pose that looks like he's in the midst of any sort of epic battle. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care.